everybody. Sorry it's a day late, but here's the new episode of The Hunted. Finally starting to get into the thick of things, and things should get, I don't know, there should be a lot more action coming up. I just wanted to say thanks for support. Like, we have people who like it and are sharing it, and it's really nice to see, and slowly the number grows, and it's really nice. Yeah, there's not really much. Dead, Max and I started up Dead, and that's a thing. My other podcast, Percentages, which is just a ramble about whatever's on my mind at the time. I'll usually record it over the weekend and post it Monday. And I'm going to start doing that with Max. Goes up on Mondays, and that's starting to get listeners too, which is really strange considering that was just an audio diary I started. But there's not really much else. The site's starting to pick up and finally able to post things regularly. I'm starting to get into video editing more, so when my computer stops messing up the renders for the video I'm trying to do, there will be another throwback Thursday review, but right now I cannot reach proper render, so it keeps screwing up and I have to keep re-recording it. Other than that, I'm kind of copying Tom Merritt and everybody else, and but if you like what we do and want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/SSP. That's patreon.com/SSP, and if you want to kick us $1 or so every month or whatever you can, I mean, even if it's 5 cents, it doesn't matter. Everything helps out, and might be able to start doing a little bit more with this and start doing it a bit more regularly than scrambling to get it out the day after it was supposed to. Thank work in a very bad recording environment. Other than that, thanks for everybody's support and enjoying stuff. And hey, if you like it, leave a comment on the site and let me know. I mean, I got nothing better to read, and I'd happily talk with people and chill and just do stuff, and I don't know. We're just trying to build a community up, and so. But anyway, I'll let you get to listening, and you don't have to hear me blabble about stuff. You can just hear me talk about things I've written. Either way, it's my dumb voice, and you have to suffer through it. I'm sorry. Have a nice day, guys. Be safe. Grace lazily rolled Lenora a few times to wake up and pinged her radio. "How long was I out?" Quinn's voice responded. "A few hours. We're landing in just a bit. There's a place up here, another few clicks. Hopefully we'll be able to fuel up, long as Franco hasn't gotten himself bombed out." The pilot nodded to no one before putting her runner into a short dive, relishing the weightlessness before the force as she pulled herself back up, turning another barrel roll before leveling back out. A hiss of static cut in. "You all right there, girlie?" She grinned. "Yeah, just missed flying. Lenora needs to shake the rust off anyway, don't you, girl?" She patted the instrument panel affectionately. "Just don't go doing anything dumb, all right? Need you on this with us." "Yes, ma'am." She leaned back. "Things aren't so bad, are they, girl? Good friends, we can fly again. It's not so bad down here." A short time later, Fiona's voice came over the radio again. "Let's head on down and see how old Frank's doing." The 3 ships slowly made their way down, back towards the Earth, landing on a small strip. "Stay here, I'll go talk to him." Quinn's voice replied, "No problem with me. I think I'll stay in here, unless you really need me, ma'am." Grace noticed the blast shields closed over the engineer's canopy. She switched the radio to just her friend's runner. "Are you doing all right? I mean, I can try to get Fee to let us take a break if you need." She could hear Quinn chuckle under the static. "I'm just fine, Red. Just think I'll stay in the dark for a bit. It's nice like this." "All right. How far do you think we'll make it today?" We'll maybe make it to the Straits, but stop overnight. Don't want this old bucket to start going dry over the water, and there's not too many places to stop off once we hit them." The Straits? Oh, yeah, you'll see. We don't want to get stranded on one of the islands, so we'll take a break before we head across. There's a place we can fuel up again just before we do. One problem not having these mist engines of yours. We've got to rely on fuel either stolen from the Pats or lucky enough to get from an independent like Franco here. Guess he knows someone way down south in Texas that he gets it from. Texas? The world's a lot bigger than I thought. A chuckle came over the radio again. Oh, honey, just wait. And it's just a bit of what's left of one country. There's a whole big old world out there. Grace thought a moment. Do you think we'll ever go to Texas? What's it like? Probably not. As soon as the flooding stopped, I guess they broke away from the rest. They're independent now, managed to push the Pats back any time they've tried to head that far south. I don't really know what it's like other than it holds its own. A few beats of silence passed, and just as Grace opened her mouth to speak, the door of the shack burst open and a man with skin like leather and white hair came tumbling out, Victoria calmly walking out behind him, revolver in hand. Fuel up, now. Let's get the fuck out of here. Grace hesitated a moment before she saw the blast shield retract and Quinn climb out of the transport runner and followed suit. They hooked the hoses up to the three ships while Victoria stood over the man, gun pointed at his back. This fuck called the fucking Dixies when he saw us coming. We need to hightail it the fuck out now. I didn't know it was you. I thought you was one of them boys that landed down near Florida. I'm sorry. Oh, come on, Frank. Even if it wasn't us, why the hell would you call the Dixies? You know that wouldn't end well for you either. Quinn called from behind her runner. The sound of metal scraping on metal signaled her attaching the fuel line. Grace did her best to keep up, opening the hatch on Lenora and jamming the line into the hole. Frank, I like you. That's why I'm not putting a bullet in your head this time. Next time you pull this shit, I won't hesitate. Fiona stepped away from the man and ran to her runner, attaching and starting the fuel pump. We'll stop by on the way and pay you back. But... or not. That works too. All right. I didn't mean to fuck up so bad, V. I'm sorry. The captain sighed, shoulders sinking. The old man was kneeling on the ground outside his shack, eyes pleading with her. Grace wanted to say something, but this seemed more personal than she had the right to involve herself with. It's all right. I should have radioed ahead. Just don't tell him I was here, all right? We don't need that following us. My home doesn't need that. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. There was a few awkward moments as their tanks were topped off and they climbed back into their cockpits. We'll be back around in a week or two. Probably. I'll bring you some supplies as payment. The man nodded. I'll see you then, Fee. After we were there in the air, Grace worked up the courage to ask, Hey, Captain. Who are the Dixies? There was silence for a few moments. Back before I had the Saki, Silas, hell, anything, I used to run with them. They were as close to family as I had grown up. Most of us came from the York back when it crashed. Mother kept us together, kept us safe. We were strong. Then she left. Things started going to hell. Went from only doing what we had to survive to raiding and pillaging just for the fuck of it. I got out and the rest is history. Oh. I can see why you wouldn't want to run into them. Doesn't help she stole the Saki from him. Quinn's voice chimed in. Well, yeah, that too. General Laird watched the monitors as the recording of the day's events played out. His fingers dug into the arms of his throne as he watched the massive squat bipedal machines march over his outpost in the ruins of Atlanta. So the Emperor had made his move. He watched the recording until it blurred to static, and the sounds of gunfire cutting off as the camera was destroyed. Jean. The static blinked away, replaced by the ghostly face of a man.
Yes, sir.
The hiccups in the program's voice still weren't taken care of. He'd have to have a word with Klaus about that as well. Bring Klaus here, as well as the hunters. Oh, and inform the doctor that we'll be pushing the timetable on the project up in light of recent events. The general said, leaning back in his chair.
Yes, sir.
A scant few minutes later, the 9 hunters and Klaus were assembled in the general's throne room, the hunters kneeling, heads bowed before their leader. The scientist was not so reverent, standing near the door, the ominous ticking that followed him barely audible over the cooling equipment for the machinery that surrounded them. We will be in war soon. Silva has seen fit to expand his little empire into our land. The largest of the hunters, a woman who simply went by the name Mother, slowly rose, her voice gruff. I will personally crush the jungle dwellers, my lord. You need only give the word. While the other hunters grunted in agreement, the cluck of a tongue could be heard behind them. Oh dear, you really must learn to use your head for more than simply beating doors down. Do you really think our lovely general would have invited the 10 of us here if it was going to be that simple? Mother's head slowly turned, glaring at the man, the cords of muscle in her neck rippling as she did, hands cracking as she balled him into fists. He could tell she wanted nothing more than to rip him limb from limb, and could easily do it, but she knew the general would execute her if she did. Enough, the general said quietly. The woman quickly turned back to him, bowing her head. My apologies, Lord General. As much as I admire your strength, Klaus is correct. The Brazilians are far more formidable than the backwater militias and resistances we have faced bringing freedom back to this land. Jean.
Yes, sir.
The bank of monitors lit up behind them, the 9 turning in unison to watch the video that played. The scientist wrote numbers in the air, apparently ignoring what was happening on the screens. The hunters watched as the standing force in the Atlanta outpost attempted to defend against the approaching army, seemingly keeping them at bay until the Brazilian war machines surfaced from the water. The towering bipedal tanks shot gouts of flame, fired chain guns, and launched explosive shells into the base, leveling it in moments. Even Klaus's attention was captured when he saw them. Such inelegant designs, but I suppose they serve their purpose. The general nodded. That is why you are here, dear doctor. How has your work progressed? The screens went dark and all attention turned to the scientist. He gave a half shrug. Which bit of work do you mean, dear general? I have quite a few different. He was cut off by one of the hunters, whose name he hadn't caught yet, stepping forward. Address the Lord General properly, worm. Mother nodded, as did the others. He smirked. Why, of course, Lord General. My apologies for the insolence. Which of my current assignments are you speaking of? Laird glowered at the man from his throne. If he wasn't integral to his plans, he would have had the doctor executed long ago, something the other man obviously knew. The giant's doctor. I need something to combat this. The general motioned to the now dark screens. Klaus smirked. Oh, I have 2 prototypes already finished and ready for field testing. I moved on to other things weeks ago, in fact. I have something else that may... He was cut off again, this time by the general. I do not care, Klaus. If they truly are completed, I want you to send the prototypes out for testing. They must be ready for fabrication as soon as possible. The scientist was beginning to get irritated by the interruptions. Of course, Lord General. I will schedule them for testing this afternoon. I'm sure there's a village somewhere that needs freedom brought to it, no? They will need pilots, though. Can't send just anyone off with them. May never get them back. Mother? Yes, sir. Abner? Lord. A man not much smaller than Mother replied. The general nodded at the pair. You will conduct the trials this afternoon. Go prepare yourselves. The rest of you are dismissed. 9 bodies moved in unison, all saluting their leader. Their voices sang together, Lord General, sir, we will bring freedom to this land, sir, in the name of God, Washington, and the Republic, sir. Mother kneeled in the center of her room, her fists on her thighs, head bowed. She recounted every battle she'd been in during her years on the surface, committed every tactic used by an enemy to memory again. The war machines the Brazilians had brought certainly looked formidable, but so far nothing had been able to stand against her. Slowly she stood, flexing her left hand, then right. She closed her eyes and exhaled, allowing her massive body to relax as her armor took shape. A mixture of metals and bone flowed from her pores, spreading across her nearly black skin, hardening into an almost impenetrable mesh that covered her body. She willed almost decorative-looking spines to form around her knees and elbows, adding protection to the exposed joints. Finally, the mask took shape around her shaved head, covering everything but a thin slit for her eyes. Steam rose from the armor as it cooled, and she took a deep breath, feeling the mesh flex with her. She was ready. The Hunted is a production of Spider Squid Studios. You can find this and other content at spidersquidproductions.com. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod of Comtech.com. The Hunted Sky falls under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike 3.0 license. Find out more information at creativecommons.org. Have a nice day.